I'm so grateful for the way that I took in the life that I found and the friends that I found, because believe it or not, gangs are like a family. Like that's why people turn there. They're missing something within their own family, so they turn to the streets. That's why I have a bigger vision to, create the alternative to the streets so people have an option. Because if we can get more of the nonprofits working together, we can build that ecosystem that the streets has, because we're all looking for something.
Yeah.
It's just like you don't know where else to turn.
Oh my God, I love the idea of a positive gang and creating some sort of kind of cultural community and connection. So I have to imagine that most of my listeners have no idea what it's like to be in a gang. And I definitely don't know. So can you tell us, like, what does that even mean?
Well, I wasn't in a gang.
I know, but so what does it mean to find community in a gang environment?
So a friend of mine was in a gang, and he actually went to school with me in the suburbs. So he took us out to his neighborhood. So basically, we call it the block, most of the time. So he took us to the neighborhood where his gang was. So you literally pull up, get out of the car. There's like 25, 30 people outside drinking, doing drugs. Cars will fly by. Opposite gang will be chasing them, maybe shooting at each other. Sometimes when it gets really bad, people will pull up to that 30 group of people and get out of the car and start shooting, and everybody will scatter. Or, the cops come and break us all up for mob action, throw you in jail, things like that. And it is just hanging out on the streets, or we'll get in each other's cars, and the cars will be full of people. We'll drive down to the lake, drink and do drugs. It was a lot of drinking and doing drugs, but also like selling drugs and making money in different ways. So it was just a fun time. And then of course, you hook up with people and you meet like a guy or a girl and things like that. It's not the traditional ways of life, that's for sure. And I found the people that I hung around with, they were like family. Like they were like, this is my brother, this is my sister. And I just wrapped myself in there. One block is one gang, 2 streets down is a whole nother gang, and they're at war, right? So they basically come try to kill each other. It's not a life you want to live. And it's funny because I didn't know for a long time, like, how did I get there? People run from the city and they try to come to the suburbs, because in the city, you can't walk down the street without looking around or turning your back or watching where you're at to see who's coming or what's happening. And I lived a very safe life. So I never understood why I went there until I was much older and realized I felt safer there than I felt in my house, which how disturbing is that? Even though it seemed like a long time for me, it really wasn't. It was like a year or 2 period. And then I did graduate. I got kicked out of high school straight off sophomore year. I graduated through an alternative program. I always had a job. That was one thing that I always did. I always worked because I needed money to take care of myself. And of course, I needed to be able to drive back and forth to the city. So always had a job, but I graduated through the alternative program. And I was 17 at the time. And then my dad moved in with his girlfriend, and I got kicked out the same day we moved in. So I was like off and on homeless because my mom, she came back and forth from Tennessee, but at that time she was not living here. So I didn't have anywhere else to go except for my friends. And, she was dating one of the guys that we hung out with in the gang. And then of course all his friends would be around,
Wait, who was dating?
One of my best friends.
Your friend who you were like couch surfing with.
Yeah. Yeah. So her foster mom was taking care of her, and they let me stay with her at the time I first got kicked out. So I was just couch surfing really. And people don't understand, how hard it is to like work or do anything positive when you don't know where you're going to sleep. You have no idea where you're going to lay your head. And all that I have is like my backpack full of stuff, right? So it's tough. And I would say that is the most difficult position to be in. Until you're in it, you really don't realize how hard it is. Because even when I got a place to live, there were so many people in and out of my house. I was afraid to go to work because I may come home and like my stuff would be gone or stolen. So it was very tough. It was fight or flight in their survival mode from a very young age.
Were there ever any nights where you actually didn't have any place to sleep?
Yeah, I would stay. I would just drive around. We would stay out on the streets till like 7, 8 a.m. And then I would wait for somebody to get up to let me come sleep at their house and different things. So that was a short period of time. But then when I got an apartment, I had an apartment and it only lasted for 3 months because we weren't ready for it. I think had just turned 18, but it was only lasted for like 3 months because we had too many people over and was still, partying and different things. But at that time, I stopped hanging out on the streets. Like I was able to get a job, but people would still come over to my house. So that's how that went.
So you got kicked out of that apartment?
Yeah, we got kicked out of that apartment.
Who's we?
My friend Jean that I used to live with. She's the one who I moved in with when I was 17 and I got kicked out.
Yeah.
She got in a place with me because she was also living with her foster mom.
So you get kicked out of the apartment. You're kind of back to zero, right? At some point now you meet your kid's father.
Yeah.
So tell me that story.
So Jean gets pregnant first. Her daughter's father he was actually in jail. And then he got out of jail and came to stay with us on house arrest. And she got pregnant during that time. So she moved in with him and I moved in with her sister to a different location. We found a new apartment. The day I move in, I find out that I'm living next door to a guy in a different gang than the gang that I hung out with. And I knew him previously because it was my ex-boyfriend's friend. I'm like, oh, great. This is not good. This is a whole nother gang. Now I know they know where he lives. So they're going to be over here all the time, which means if my friends find out where I live, there's going to be a huge problem.
Oh, no.
Because they're rival gangs. And my friend Jean was with someone in a different gang. So it was a definitely complicated situation. And I had no idea. I thought the neighborhood in Chicago that I moved into didn't have gangs on that street. Right. Little did I know I was moving in next door to someone. So he had his friends over and that's when I met my kid's father.
So it was your neighbor who was a rival gang member's friend.
Yes.
That you end up falling for.
Yes. And that I end up having 3 children with.
Wow. 3.
Yes.
So this is when you were 20, you first became pregnant.
19, actually.
19. That must have been scary.
It was a blessing for me. The life I was living was going to end me up dead or in jail. Yeah. Like my daughter was the blessing that I needed in order to change my life and seriously gave me a reason to live because I didn't care. I didn't care about myself at all, clearly. She gave that to me. It was almost like I got pregnant. I'm like, oh, yes, great. A reason to change because I wanted one so bad. I don't know why I needed one, but I did. So I named her Destiny because she was truly that for me. And I moved out of the neighborhood. He also had already had a child who was like 6 months old at the time that I got with him. So I was like, oof, he wasn't really there for him too much. And I was like, okay, well, this is how this is going to go. I'm going to have a baby and I'm okay if, you're not there. That's just what it is because this is what I need for right now.
Yeah. So tell me about the pregnancy time. Like I'm just picturing like 19-year-old Jennifer just having come out of essentially homelessness yourself. And now, because I'm going to be honest, Jen, like I understand I'm considering the place of privilege. Like for me, my biggest concerns when I was pregnant, and they felt big, were morning sickness, right? Like growing out of my jeans, like how am I going to keep up like my fitness routine because I have heartburn? And it's like, that is so privileged to just be thinking about those things when there's so many women out there who are pregnant who are like, I'm not just worried about like which prenatal vitamin to choose. I don't know where I'm sleeping. What was it like?
It's funny because that apartment was very short-lived as well. My friends who were in a rival gang, then my new boyfriends, they found out where I lived and there was like gang wars happening inside of my living room. People almost having their heads blown off in the middle of my living room.
Wait, what do you mean?
Literally.
Like people pulling guns?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So one of the incidences were the neighbor who I lived next door to. My friends came over and then a couple of his friends came over and we all started tripping on acid. And that's just not a good mix. I knew it was just bad.
You weren't pregnant, were you?
No.
Okay, good. So this is before.
This is before. This is like right when we moved in. And he snuck out the back door, went and got a gun from the house, put it to one of my friends' heads in the middle of my living room. I literally had my hand on the barrel. The barrel's right here. And I'm like, don't do this. Oh my God, you're going to blow his brains out in my living room. Please don't do it. I was begging. My friend is behind me. He's like, you better pull the trigger. You better pull the trigger. Because if not, I'm going to kill you. So I'm like, oh, this is so bad. And evidently, he said he pulled the trigger. But he had short barrel bullets in the long barrel gun and it supposedly didn't go off. So God was with me that day for sure because nobody got killed. And then, just everything erupted. Someone else had a knife to their neck, a butcher knife, he wasn't even a gang. It was a very, very bad situation. very bad situation. Ended up with us getting thrown out of there as well.
Right.
And nobody got killed, thankfully. But they did come a couple times, and they caught my boyfriend one time and beat him up. But that was the worst of what happened, which was a blessing. And then when we got pregnant, they called it ceasefire because we were pregnant. Me and my friend got pregnant actually at the same exact time.